Aaron James stared at the alien before him, his mind racing with the implications of what he was about to attempt. Human breeding methods on an extraterrestrial species. The message from the United Earth government had arrived just hours ago, marked urgent and classified. Now he found himself face to face with Vortis, a tall, reptilian-like creature with iridescent scales that shimmered under the harsh lights of the secure government facility. "Our race faces extinction," Vortis said, his voice a low, rumbling hiss. "We hope your human methods can save us." Aaron nodded, the weight of 2 species settling on his shoulders. At 32, he was considered one of Earth's foremost geneticists, but this task stretched the boundaries of his expertise. The Raymond race's widespread infertility had brought them to Earth, seeking an alliance that could benefit both their civilizations. "I understand the gravity of the situation," Aaron replied, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his gut. "If we succeed, Earth gains a powerful ally against potential hostile extraterrestrial threats. If we fail—" He left the sentence unfinished, but the implication hung in the air. Failure could mean Earth becoming a target for Riemann conquest, viewed as useless and expendable. The government official overseeing the meeting stepped forward. "Dr. James, you'll be working with Vortis at your private lab home. We've arranged for all necessary equipment to be transferred there. This project is now your top priority." Aaron's mind raced through the logistics. His converted warehouse, typically his sanctuary for genetic research, would now house an alien subject. He'd need to reconfigure his setup, prepare living quarters for Vortis, and ensure the security measures were up to government standards. As they left the facility, Aaron couldn't help but study Vortis more closely. Despite the alien's reptilian appearance, there was an intelligence in those eyes that spoke of a complex sentient being. The iridescent scales caught the sunlight, creating a mesmerizing display of colors. Once at the lab home, Aaron wasted no time. He began with a thorough physical examination of Vortis, meticulously documenting Riemann anatomy and reproductive organs. To his surprise and relief, he discovered a remarkable compatibility between Riemann and human DNA. "This is promising," Aaron muttered, more to himself than to Vortis. "We'll start with basic human breeding methods and work our way up in complexity." He moved to his computer, fingers flying over the keyboard, as he formulated a regimen of fertility-enhancing nutrients and hormones tailored to Vortis's alien physiology. The challenge energized him, pushing his scientific knowledge to its limits. As night fell, Aaron found himself staring out the window of his lab, the gravity of the situation hitting him anew. The fate of 2 species rested on his ability to help Vortis breed successfully. The potential for interstellar conflict loomed over him like a shadow. With a deep breath, Aaron turned back to his workstation. He began drafting a comprehensive plan for the experiments ahead, each step carefully considered and meticulously detailed. As he worked, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursed through him. He was about to embark on the most important project of his career, perhaps the most important project in human history. The clock ticked past midnight, but Aaron showed no signs of slowing. His alien guest, the future of 2 species, and the promise of groundbreaking scientific discovery drove him forward. The journey to uncover human breeding methods for an alien race had begun, and Aaron James was determined to see it through to success. As the first rays of dawn crept through the lab windows, Aaron rubbed his eyes and surveyed his work. The comprehensive plan he'd drafted through the night was ambitious, pushing the boundaries of both human and Riemann biology. With a deep breath, he turned to Vortis, who had been patiently observing from a nearby chair. "We're ready to begin," Aaron announced, his voice a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The first order of business was transforming the lab home into an environment conducive to Raman reproduction. Aaron adjusted the thermostat and humidity controls, guided by the data he'd collected during Vortis's initial examination. The air grew warmer and more humid, reminiscent of the Riemann homeworld. "How does this feel?" Aaron asked, watching Vortis's reaction closely. Vortis's scales rippled, reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors. "It reminds me of home," the alien replied, a hint of nostalgia in its rumbling voice. With the environment set, Aaron turned his attention to Vortis's diet. He'd spent hours analyzing the nutritional needs of Riemanns, and comparing them to human fertility-boosting foods. The result was a carefully crafted meal plan that he hoped would optimize Vortis's reproductive health. "I've prepared a special diet for you," Aaron explained, presenting Vortis with a tray of unfamiliar foods. "These nutrients should help boost your fertility." Vortis examined the offerings curiously before consuming them. Aaron noted every reaction, from the slight twitch of Vortis's tail to the changing patterns on its scales. As days passed, Aaron's work intensified. He initiated a series of hormone treatments, constantly monitoring Vortis's biological responses. Each injection was a calculated risk, a delicate balance between human knowledge and alien physiology. 2 weeks into the experiment, Aaron realized he needed specialized help. He contacted Dr. Lyra Warren, a renowned human female reproductive specialist. Her expertise would be crucial for the more intimate aspects of the breeding attempts. Dr. Warren arrived at the lab home, her professional demeanor masking any surprise she might have felt at the sight of Vortis. "Dr. James," she greeted, shaking Aaron's hand firmly. "I've been briefed on the situation. Shall we begin?" Together they set up the equipment for artificial insemination. The process proved more challenging than anticipated. Vortis's unique anatomy required multiple modifications to their tools and techniques. "The cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen," Dr. Warren muttered, peering through a microscope at a sample of Vortis's genetic material. Aaron nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We'll need to adjust our approach. Perhaps if we alter the pH balance." Their work was interrupted by an unexpected reaction from Vortis. Aaron had been experimenting with environmental stimuli to trigger Raman mating instincts. A particular combination of light patterns and synthesized pheromones caused Vortis to emit a low, resonant hum and perform a series of elaborate movements. "Fascinating," Aaron breathed, hastily recording the behavior. "This must be part of the Raman mating ritual." Dr. Warren raised an eyebrow. "Let's hope it doesn't get too involved. We're not equipped for a full alien mating dance." Their progress was suddenly halted when Vortis collapsed, its scales turning a sickly gray. Alarms blared as the alien's vital signs plummeted. "It's going into shock," Aaron shouted, rushing to Vortis's side. "Dr. Warren, I need your help." They worked frantically, administering emergency treatments and adjusting Vortis's environment. Hours passed in a blur of activity before Vortis finally stabilized. Exhausted, Aaron slumped against a lab table. "We need to reevaluate our approach," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Some of these human treatments might be toxic to Raman physiology." As they regrouped, formulating safer, more tailored methods, the lab home received an unexpected visitor. General Marcus Steele, the military liaison for the project, strode in, his presence filling the room. "Dr. James," the general's voice was gruff, his eyes scanning the lab critically. "I hope you have good news for me. The stakes here are higher than you can imagine." Aaron straightened, meeting the general's gaze. "We've had some setbacks, sir, but we're making progress. In fact, this visit might be fortuitous. We could use access to any classified xenobiology research you might have." General Steele's expression remained impassive, but he nodded. "I'll see what I can do. Remember, Doctor, failure is not an option." As the general left, Aaron turned back to his work with renewed commitment. He began researching Raman cultural practices, delving into ancient texts and records provided by Vortis. "These old breeding rituals," Aaron mused, poring over the information. "They might hold the key we've been missing." He started formulating a new approach, one that merged traditional Raman practices with cutting-edge human reproductive technologies. As the plan took shape, Aaron felt a surge of cautious optimism. Vortis, now recovered, watched Aaron with keen interest. "You believe this new method will work?" the alien asked. Aaron met Vortis's gaze, seeing the hope and trust reflected there. "It's our best shot," he replied. "We're entering uncharted territory, but I believe we're on the right track." With Dr. Warren at his side and Vortis ready to continue, Aaron prepared for the next phase of their unprecedented experiment. The lab hummed with energy as they set up for the new procedures, the fate of 2 species hanging in the balance. As dawn broke, Aaron stood before his newly constructed chamber, a fusion of human ingenuity and Raman tradition. The specialized room hummed with potential, its carefully calibrated systems ready to recreate the conditions of the ancient Raman mating grounds. "It's ready," Aaron announced, turning to Vortis and Dr. Warren. "Let's begin the next phase." The chamber's door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing an alien landscape within. Mist swirled around their feet as they entered, the air warm and heavy with moisture. Overhead, a network of lights pulsed softly, mimicking the atmospheric conditions of the Raman homeworld during mating season. Vortis's scales rippled, reflecting the chamber's ethereal lighting. This feels right," the alien said, voice tinged with a mixture of awe and nostalgia. Aaron nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "Good. Now let's proceed with the treatment regimen." Over the next few days, Aaron and Dr. Warren administered a series of carefully formulated injections to Vortis. Each dose contained a potent mixture of nutrients and hormones, designed to stimulate Raman fertility. Alongside the injections, they exposed Vortis to specific electromagnetic frequencies, hypothesizing that these might trigger dormant reproductive instincts. As the treatments progressed, Aaron noticed subtle changes in Vortis's appearance and behavior. The alien's scales began to display more vivid color variations, shifting in mesmerizing patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. "Fascinating," Aaron murmured, recording his observations. "This bioluminescence, it's similar to mating displays in certain Earth species. We might be on the right track." Dr. Warren nodded, her eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. "Vortis's hormone levels are fluctuating in ways we haven't seen before. It's promising, but we need to proceed with caution." Their work was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Commander Zara, a female Raman officer whose presence immediately filled the lab with tension. Her scales, darker and more angular than Vortis's, seemed to bristle as she surveyed the human equipment. "I've been sent to observe your progress," she announced, her voice carrying a hint of challenge. The Raman High Command grows impatient with these human methods. Aaron straightened, meeting the commander's gaze. "We're making significant strides, Commander. If you'll allow me to explain our approach—" "I'm not interested in explanations, Dr. James," Zara cut him off. "I'm here to see results." The following days were filled with a palpable tension as Aaron and his team continued their work under Zara's watchful eye. The commander's skepticism was evident in her constant questioning and push for more aggressive approaches. Despite the added pressure, Aaron pressed on with his plans. He and Dr. Warren had developed a new artificial insemination technique, one that merged human technology with Raman biological structures. As they prepared for the procedure, Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. The night of the procedure arrived, the lab humming with nervous energy. Aaron, Dr. Warren, and Commander Zara gathered around Vortis, who lay on a specially designed examination table within the simulated mating grounds. As Dr. Warren began the insemination process, Aaron monitored the vital signs closely. Suddenly, a loud pop echoed through the chamber, followed by a shower of sparks from a nearby console. "Power surge!" Aaron shouted, rushing to stabilize the equipment. In the chaos that followed, no one noticed the subtle change in Vortis's readings. It wasn't until hours later, as they pored over the data, that Aaron made a startling discovery. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a series of graphs on his screen. "The energy discharge. It seems to have activated dormant genes in Vortis's reproductive system." Dr. Warren leaned in, her eyes widening. "This could be the key we've been missing, a trigger that the Raman's own scientists overlooked." Excitement coursed through Aaron as he considered the implications. His mind raced with possibilities, each more revolutionary than the last. Finally, he turned to face the others, his expression a mixture of persistence and trepidation. "I have a proposal," he began, "but it's unconventional." Commander Zara's eyes narrowed. "Speak plainly, human." Aaron took a deep breath. "I believe we should consider creating a human-Raman hybrid embryo." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Warren stared at Aaron in shock, while Vortis's scales flickered rapidly, reflecting the alien's agitation. Commander Zara was the first to break the silence, her voice low and dangerous. You suggest diluting our genetic purity? This is unacceptable. Before Aaron could respond, the lab's communication system crackled to life. General Steele's gruff voice filled the room. Dr. James, we have a situation. Intelligence reports indicate the Krell have learned of our cooperation with the Remans. They're mobilizing their forces as we speak. Aaron's blood ran cold. The Krell, notorious enemies of the Remans, posed a threat not just to their project, but to the fragile peace between their species. Understood, General, Aaron replied, his mind already racing to adapt their plans. We'll accelerate our timeline. As he turned back to his team, Aaron saw the weight of their task reflected in their eyes. The fate of two species, perhaps even the balance of power in their corner of the galaxy, rested on the success of their next experiment. We need to move quickly, Aaron announced, already moving to prepare the lab for their most critical attempt yet. Every second counts now. As they worked, Aaron couldn't help but feel the enormity of the moment. Each action, each decision, carried the potential to alter the course of interstellar relations. With the threat of the Krell looming and the future of the Raman species hanging in the balance, Aaron knew that failure was not an option. The lab buzzed with frantic activity as they made their final preparations. Aaron's eyes met Vortis's, seeing in the alien's gaze a mixture of hope and fear that mirrored his own. Whatever the outcome, he knew that the next few hours would change everything. Everything. With the threat of the Krell looming and the future of the Raman species hanging in the balance, Aaron knew that failure was not an option. The lab buzzed with frantic activity as they made their final preparations. Aaron's eyes met Vortis's, seeing in the alien's gaze a mixture of hope and fear that mirrored his own. Whatever the outcome, he knew that the next few hours would change the course of history. Dr. Warren, are we ready? Aaron asked, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. She nodded, her hands moving with practiced precision over the controls of the specialized incubation chamber. The environment is stable. We can proceed with the hybrid embryo creation. Aaron took a deep breath, carefully selecting the genetic material from both human and Raman samples. He focused on traits that could potentially enhance fertility and overall viability, his mind racing with the possibilities and risks of what they were about to attempt. As he prepared to introduce the genetic material into the chamber, the lab's doors hissed open. A tall, distinguished man with salt and pepper hair strode in, his piercing gaze immediately locking onto the team's activities. Dr. James, I presume? The newcomer said, his voice carrying an air of authority. I'm Dr. Elias Stromberg, sent by the United Earth government to oversee this project. Aaron's expression resolute imperceptibly. Dr. Stromberg, we're in the middle of a critical procedure. Perhaps we could discuss your role after... I'm afraid this can't wait, Stromberg interrupted, moving closer to inspect the incubation chamber. The UEG has concerns about the direction of this experiment. I'm here to ensure we're exploring all possible avenues. Before Aaron could respond, the communication system crackled to life. General Steele's gruff voice filled the room once again. Dr. James, we have a situation. Krell activity has increased near Earth's solar system. We need to accelerate your timeline. The tension in the lab ratcheted up another notch. Aaron's mind raced, calculating risks and potential outcomes. Understood, General. We're implementing additional security measures now. He turned to Dr. Warren. Activate the cloaking technology. We can't risk the Krell detecting our work. As Dr. Warren engaged the advanced cloaking systems, Aaron refocused on the hybrid embryo creation. With practiced movements, he introduced the carefully selected genetic material into the chamber. The team watched with nervous excitement as the first signs of cellular division appeared on the monitoring screens. Remarkable, Dr. Stromberg murmured, leaning in for a closer look. The rate of division is unprecedented. Aaron allowed himself a moment of cautious optimism before returning his attention to the readouts. His brow furrowed as he noticed an anomaly in the embryo's development. Dr. Warren, are you seeing this? She nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. Unexpected mutations. We need to stabilize it. Fast. For the next several hours, Aaron and Dr. Warren worked tirelessly, using a combination of genetic manipulation techniques and environmental adjustments to guide the embryo's development. Dr. Stromberg observed closely, occasionally offering suggestions that Aaron reluctantly admitted were insightful. As they fought to control the hybrid's volatile growth, a commotion from the other side of the lab caught their attention. Vortis had collapsed, their scales pulsing with an intense, otherworldly light. "Vortis!" Aaron rushed to the alien's side, his medical training kicking in as he assessed the situation. Vortis's body temperature was skyrocketing, and their eyes had glazed over in a trance-like state. Commander Zara stepped forward, her earlier skepticism replaced by a look of wonder. I've only read about this in our ancient texts. It's a throwback to our ancestral mating behaviors. Aaron's mind raced with the implications. This could be the key we've been missing. Dr. Warren, we need to incorporate Vortis's biological data into the hybrid embryo development process. As they worked to adapt their experiment, Commander Zara surprised them all by sharing classified information about Riemann biology. "There's a crucial detail about our reproductive cycle that's been lost to time," she explained, her voice low and intense. "During the height of mating season, our ancestors would enter a state of biological flux, allowing for rapid adaptation to environmental changes. This new information galvanized the team. They redoubled their efforts, fine-tuning the hybrid embryo's development process to incorporate these long-lost Riemann traits. As the hours ticked by, the embryo continued to grow at an astonishing rate. Its rapid development presented new challenges, pushing the limits of their ability to provide the necessary nutrients and environmental conditions. Dr. Stromberg, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. "We could use an experimental time dilation field to accelerate the hybrid's growth even further. It would allow us to observe years of development in a matter of days." Aaron hesitated, the risks of such an untested method weighing heavily on his mind. But as he glanced at the monitoring screens showing the approaching Krell ships, he knew they were running out of options. "All right," he said finally. "Let's do it. Prepare the time dilation chamber." They carefully transferred the hybrid embryo to the specially designed chamber. As Dr. Stromberg made the final adjustments to the time dilation field, an eerie silence fell over the lab. Aaron's finger hovered over the activation switch, the weight of two species' futures pressing down on him. He took a deep breath and pressed the button. The chamber hummed to life, the air around it shimmering with distorted time. For a moment, everything seemed to be proceeding as planned. Then, without warning, alarms blared throughout the facility. General Steele's voice boomed over the intercom, urgency clear in his tone. "Dr. James, we have a critical situation. Krell ships have entered Earth's atmosphere. They're heading your way." The time dilation field fluctuated dangerously, threatening to destabilize the hybrid embryo. Aaron's mind raced, torn between the need to defend against the impending Krell attack and the desperate hope that the hybrid would provide the solution they so desperately needed. As klaxons wailed and the team looked to him for direction, Aaron stood at the crossroads of history, the fate of two species hanging in the balance. The next decision he made would shape the future of interspecies relations and potentially the survival of the Riemann race. With the Krell bearing down on them and the hybrid embryo's stability deteriorating by the second, Aaron knew he had to act fast. Aaron's mind raced, weighing the monumental decision before him. The Krell threat loomed ever closer, but the potential breakthrough in their hybrid experiment couldn't be abandoned. With a decisive nod, he turned to his team. "We continue the experiment," he declared, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Dr. Warren, Commander Zara, stay with the hybrid. Monitor its development closely. Dr. Stromberg, you're with me. We need to bolster our defenses." As alarms blared throughout the facility, Aaron and Dr. Stromberg sprinted to the security control room. Their fingers flew over holographic interfaces, activating a complex array of defensive measures. Energy shields hummed to life, enveloping the lab home in a protective cocoon. "We're integrating Riemann camouflage technology with our stealth systems," Aaron explained, his eyes fixed on the readouts. "It should buy us some time." Meanwhile, in the main lab, Dr. Warren and Commander Zara huddled around the time dilation chamber. The hybrid embryo pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its growth accelerated beyond anything they had ever witnessed. "Look at the cellular division rate," Dr. Warren breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. It's adapting and evolving in real time. Commander Zara leaned in, her scales shimmering with excitement. The embryo's genetic structure, it's incorporating lost traits from our ancestral past. How is this possible? Before Dr. Warren could respond, the lab doors hissed open. General Steele marched in, flanked by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. His weathered face was grim as he approached Aaron. "We've set up a defensive perimeter," the general reported. "But I won't sugarcoat it, Doctor. The situation is dire. We've opened diplomatic channels with the Krell, but negotiations are tense. The success of your experiment might be our only leverage." Aaron nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Understood, General. We're making progress, but we need more time." As if in response to his words, the hybrid embryo in the time dilation chamber suddenly pulsed with intense light. Dr. Warren gasped, her hands flying over the controls. "It's entering a new phase of development," she called out. "The growth rate is off the charts." Hours compressed into minutes as they watched the hybrid mature. Human and Riemann traits merged and evolved, creating something entirely new. Suddenly, Dr. Warren's eyes widened as she noticed an anomaly in the readouts. "Aaron, come look at this," she said urgently. "The hybrid is producing an unknown hormone. I've never seen anything like it." Aaron rushed to her side, studying the data. His heart raced as he realized the implications. "This could be it," he whispered, "the key to reversing Riemann infertility." Their moment of triumph was short-lived. The lab home shuddered as something impacted the outer defenses. General Steele's comm unit crackled to life. "Sir, we've got incoming," a soldier's voice reported. "Krell probes, dozens of them. They're scanning the area." Aaron exchanged a worried glance with Dr. Stromberg. "We need to enhance the cloaking," he said. "Let's combine the Raman camouflage with our most advanced stealth tech." As they worked feverishly to upgrade their defenses, the time dilation chamber began to emit a high-pitched whine. Alarms blared as power fluctuations threatened to destabilize the field. "The chamber can't take much more," Dr. Warren shouted over the noise. "We need to extract the hybrid now." Aaron, Dr. Warren, and Commander Zara rushed to the chamber, preparing for the delicate extraction process. The hybrid, now fully mature, floated in the shimmering field, its eyes closed as if in deep sleep. Just as they initiated the extraction sequence, the lab home rocked with a massive explosion. The lights flickered, and the sound of energy weapons filled the air. "Krell infiltrators!" General Steele's voice boomed through the comm. "We'll hold them off. Get that hybrid out." With steady hands belying their racing hearts, Aaron and his team carefully maneuvered the hybrid out of the chamber. As soon as it cleared the field, the time dilation technology collapsed in a shower of sparks. The hybrid's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that swirled with a mesmerizing blend of human and Riemann patterns. It gasped, taking its first breath in real time. Dr. Warren quickly ran a scanner over the hybrid's body, her expression shifting from concern to awe. "The hormone production is stable," she reported, "and its genetic structure, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. This could be the blueprint for a whole new Riemann subspecies." Their moment of scientific triumph was cut short as General Steele burst into the lab, his uniform scorched and a plasma rifle clutched in his hands. "We're overrun," he growled. "We need to evacuate now. There's a secure facility off-site where you can continue your work." As they prepared to move, Vorty suddenly convulsed, their scales pulsing with an intense light. A powerful, musky scent filled the air, causing the approaching Krell forces to falter and retreat. A defense mechanism, Aaron realized, his mind racing with the implications. Triggered by the hybrid's presence. They had no time to study this new development. With the sounds of battle growing closer, Aaron and his team secured the hybrid and their vital research data. As they rushed towards the evacuation point, Aaron's mind whirled with the potential consequences of their creation. The hybrid, now fully conscious, moved with a grace that belied its newborn status. Its eyes darted around, taking in the chaos with an unsettling intelligence. As they reached the transport vehicle, Aaron noticed something extraordinary. "The hybrid," he gasped, pointing to a readout on his portable scanner. It's producing reproductive cells at an incredible rate, compatible with both human and Raman physiology. The implications were staggering. As the transport lifted off, carrying them away from the embattled lab home, Aaron knew that their work had only just begun. The hybrid held the key not only to saving the Raman species, but potentially to a new era of human-Raman relations. As they soared into the night sky, the Krell ships looming ominously on the horizon, Aaron clutched the datapad containing their research. The fate of two species, perhaps the entire balance of power in the galaxy, rested in their hands. The hybrid, seated across from him, met his gaze with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of two worlds. Whatever came next, Aaron knew, would change everything. Everything forever. The transport shuddered as it accelerated, leaving the chaos of the lab home behind. Aaron's eyes darted between the hybrid and his datapad, his mind racing with the implications of their creation. The hybrid's eyes, swirling with human and Raman patterns, seemed to reflect the complexity of their situation. Suddenly, the transport rocked violently. General Steele's voice crackled over the intercom. Krell forces intensifying their assault. Hold on tight. The air filled with the sound of energy weapons as Steele's soldiers engaged in a fierce firefight. Aaron clutched the datapad tighter, acutely aware of the precious research it contained. As the transport weaved through the barrage, the hybrid's body began to convulse. A potent, musky scent filled the air, far stronger than what they had experienced in the lab. Aaron's eyes widened as he observed the effect on their pursuers through the rear view screen. Incredible, he breathed. The hybrid's pheromones. They're disorienting the Krell. Dr. Warren leaned in, her scientific curiosity piqued despite the danger. It must be adapting to the stress. A defense mechanism, perhaps? The pursuing Krell ships began to falter, their movements becoming erratic. General Steele seized the opportunity, guiding the transport through a gap in their formation. As they broke free of the Krell's attack range, Aaron noticed Vortis trembling in the corner. The Raman scales pulsed with an intensity he hadn't seen before, mimicking the bioluminescent patterns of their ancient mating rituals. Commander Zara, Aaron called, his voice urgent, look at Vortis. These pheromones might be the key to solving your fertility crisis. Zara moved swiftly to Vortis's side, her eyes widening as she observed the changes. By the ancestral stars, she whispered, I've only seen this in historical recordings. The transport sped towards their destination, a hidden facility nestled in a mountain range. As they descended into a concealed hangar, Aaron's mind raced with the possibilities their breakthrough presented. The doors hissed open, revealing a state-of-the-art underground complex. A tall, silver-haired man in a lab coat approached them as they disembarked. Dr. James, I presume, he said, extending his hand. I'm Dr. Marcus Holloway. Welcome to our Xenobiology Research Center. Aaron shook his hand firmly. Dr. Holloway, we have a lot to discuss. Our hybrid has exhibited some extraordinary abilities during our escape. Holloway's eyes lit up with interest as he glanced at the hybrid. Then let's not waste any time. Follow me to the main lab. As they walked briskly through sterile corridors, Holloway explained the facility's capabilities. We have a cutting-edge biochamber that can simulate various planetary environments and accelerate biological processes. It should be perfect for your continued research. They entered a vast laboratory space dominated by a large cylindrical chamber filled with swirling mists. Dr. Warren immediately began setting up their equipment, her movements precise and efficient. We need to expose Vortis to controlled doses of the hybrid's pheromones, Aaron explained to Holloway. Can your biochamber replicate optimal Raman breeding conditions? Holloway nodded, his fingers flying over a control panel. Absolutely. We can simulate anything from Raman's arid plains to their humid forest regions. As the team prepared for the experiment, Commander Zara worked with the hybrid, collecting genetic samples. Her scales shimmered with excitement as she analyzed the results. Aaron, you need to see this, she called. The hybrid's reproductive cells. They're compatible with both human and Raman genetic material. The implications are staggering. Before Aaron could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. General Steele's voice boomed over the intercom. Dr. James, we've got incoming. The Krell have regrouped and are preparing another assault. We need results and fast. The success of your program could be our only bargaining chip. The pressure of their situation greatly troubled on Aaron. He glanced at the hybrid, noticing for the first time that its body seemed to be struggling, oscillating between human and Riemann biological states. Dr. Holloway frowned as he observed the hybrid's readings. The rapid maturation is causing instability in its physiology. We need to stabilize it, and quickly. An idea formed in Aaron's mind, bold and risky. What if we combined our experiments, he proposed. We could expose Vortis to the pheromones while simultaneously creating a second hybrid, one with modifications to stabilize its biology. The team sprang into action, preparing for this critical test. Vortis was carefully placed in the biochamber, along with the genetic material for the second hybrid. As they initiated the experiment, the facility shuddered under the force of a distant explosion. Krell forces have breached our outer defenses, General Steele reported, his voice tense. Whatever you're doing in there, do it fast. The biochamber hummed with energy, simulating the perfect conditions for Riemann reproduction while incubating the new hybrid embryo. Aaron watched the readings intently, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, Vortis's body began to emit a soft, pulsing light. Commander Zara gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. It's working, that bioluminescence. It's a sign of peak fertility in our species. Simultaneously, the hybrid embryo's growth accelerated, its genetic structure stabilizing in ways that exceeded their wildest expectations. As the sounds of battle grew closer, Aaron and his team stood on the precipice of a monumental breakthrough. The success of this experiment could change the course of interstellar relations and ensure the survival of the Riemann species. But as alarms blared and the facility shook with the force of the Krell assault, Aaron knew their work was nowhere near the end. The race against time had only just begun, and the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. Balance! The facility shuddered again, and Aaron's eyes darted to the biochamber's readouts. His heart sank as he saw the power levels fluctuating dangerously. We're losing stability, he shouted, rushing to the control panel. The Krell attack is causing power surges throughout the facility. Dr. Holloway joined him, his fingers flying over the controls. We need to reroute power from non-essential systems, he said, his voice tense. Otherwise, we risk losing everything we've worked for. Aaron nodded, his mind racing. Initiate emergency protocol Gamma 3, he ordered. Shut down all auxiliary systems and divert power to the biochamber. As they worked feverishly to stabilize the experiment, the sounds of battle grew louder. Energy weapons discharged nearby, and the acrid smell of ozone filled the air. General Steele's voice crackled over the intercom, strained and urgent. Krell forces have breached the outer defenses, he reported. We're holding them back, but I don't know for how long. Whatever you're doing in there, make it count. Inside the biochamber, Vortis's body began to emit an intense pulsating light. The bioluminescence rippled across the Riemann scales in mesmerizing patterns, growing brighter with each passing second. Dr. Warren's eyes widened as she monitored the readouts. Aaron, look at this, she called, gesturing to her screen. Vortis's hormonal levels are off the charts. I've never seen anything like it. Commander Zara moved closer, her scales shimmering with excitement. It's working, she breathed. This is how our ancestors looked during the height of our species' fertility. As Vortis underwent this remarkable transformation, the hybrid embryo in the adjacent chamber began to grow at an accelerated rate. Its genetic structure shifted and stabilized, adapting to the fluctuating conditions caused by the power surges. Suddenly, the facility rocked with a massive explosion. The lights flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, the biochamber's power dipped dangerously low. No! Aaron shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. We can't lose it now. Reroute emergency power reserves. As if in response to the crisis, the hybrid embryo released a burst of energy. The biochamber's systems briefly overloaded, sending a pulse of energy through the equipment and into Vortis's containment unit. Vortis's body convulsed, his scales flashing with blinding intensity. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the Raymond's reproductive system sprang to life, producing viable gametes for the first time in generations. "It's a miracle," Commander Zara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Our species might yet survive." But there was no time to celebrate. The hybrid embryo, affected by its own energy pulse, began to grow at an exponential rate. Within minutes, it had developed into a fully formed being, displaying a perfect blend of human and Riemann characteristics. As the chamber hissed open, the new hybrid stepped out, its eyes swirling with intelligence. It surveyed the chaotic lab, quickly assessing the situation. "I am Alex," the hybrid announced, its voice a melodious blend of human and Riemann tones. "I understand the gravity of our situation. How may I assist?" Before anyone could respond, another explosion rocked the facility. General Steele burst into the lab, his uniform singed and a plasma rifle clutched in his hands. "The Krell are pushing through our last line of defense," he growled. "We need a game changer, and we need it now." Alex stepped forward, its body seeming to shimmer as it adapted to the environment. "I believe I can help," the hybrid said. "My biology allows me to interface with both human and Raman technology. I can coordinate your defense efforts more efficiently than any computer system." General Steele hesitated for a moment, then nodded grimly. "At this point, I'll take any advantage we can get. Do it." As Alex began to work, interfacing with the facility systems with remarkable speed, Vortis emerged from his chamber. The Raman's body glowed with renewed vitality, his eyes bright with purpose. "I am ready," Vortis declared. "My body can now produce viable Raman genetic material. We must begin the process of creating a new generation immediately." Dr. Warren nodded, already preparing the necessary equipment. "We'll use a combination of human in vitro techniques and Riemann methods," she explained. "It's risky, but it's our best chance at jump-starting the Riemann population." As the team worked frantically on multiple fronts, defending the facility, stabilizing Vortis's fertility, and integrating Alex into their efforts, Aaron felt a glimmer of hope. They were on the verge of a breakthrough that could change the course of interstellar relations. Suddenly, Alex's head snapped up, its eyes wide. "I've intercepted a transmission from the Raman government," the hybrid announced. "They've learned of our success here. They're issuing an ultimatum to the Krell forces." The room fell silent as Alex relayed the message. The Raman government was threatening to form a permanent alliance with Earth, combining their technology with human adaptability unless the Krell withdrew immediately. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly but surely, the sounds of battle began to recede. General Steele's comm unit crackled to life with reports of Krell ships breaking off their attack and retreating. As the immediate danger passed, Aaron looked around the lab at his team, human, Raman, and now hybrid. They had achieved the impossible, but he knew their work was nowhere near the end. The rapid development of Alex, the implications of the new Raman breeding program, and the shifting interstellar political landscape presented a host of new challenges. "Well," Aaron said, a wry smile on his face as he surveyed the exhausted but triumphant faces around him, "I suppose we should prepare for our next phase of work. Something tells me things are about to get very interesting." "Interesting," Aaron said, his mind already racing with possibilities. The immediate crisis had passed, but the real work was just beginning. As the sounds of battle faded, the team quickly shifted gears. Dr. Warren began preparing the lab for the next phase of their groundbreaking work, while Commander Zara assisted Vortis from his chamber. The Raman's scales still pulsed with a faint bioluminescence, a testament to his newly restored fertility. "How do you feel?" Aaron asked, approaching Vortis with a mix of scientific curiosity and genuine concern. Vortis stretched, his movements fluid and purposeful. "Renewed," he replied, his voice resonating with newfound strength. "For the first time in generations, I feel the full vitality of my species coursing through me." Dr. Holloway, who had been examining the data from the experiment, looked up with excitement. "The genetic markers are stable," he reported. "We can begin the reproductive procedures immediately." Over the next few days, the secure facility transformed into a hub of interspecies cooperation. Aaron and Dr. Warren worked tirelessly, combining in vitro fertilization techniques with adapted Riemann methods. They carefully extracted genetic material from Vortis and prepared it for fertilization. The process was delicate and fraught with potential complications. More than once, Aaron found himself holding his breath as he manipulated the microscopic structures that held the future of an entire species. Embryo formation successful, Dr. Warren announced after a particularly tense session. The team gathered around the incubation chamber, watching in awe as the first viable ramen embryo in centuries began to develop. Alex, the human-ramen hybrid, proved invaluable during this process. Their unique biology allowed them to interface directly with the incubation systems, fine-tuning environmental conditions with unprecedented precision. "I'm detecting subtle fluctuations in the embryo's energy field," Alex reported, their eyes glowing softly as they processed vast amounts of data, adjusting nutrient flow and atmospheric composition to compensate. As news of their success spread, the facility became a hive of activity. Representatives from the Riemann government arrived, accompanied by couples eager to participate in the fertility treatments. Aaron watched as Commander Zara welcomed her people, her scales shimmering with pride and emotion. "This is Leary and Karn," she said, introducing a Riemann couple to Aaron. "They've volunteered to be among the first to undergo the full treatment." Aaron shook hands with the Riemanns, noting the hope shining in their eyes. "We're honored to have you here," he said. "Together, we're going to ensure the future of your species." As the days turned into weeks, the first generation of new Riemann infants began to emerge from their incubation chambers. The lab echoed with the soft chirps and trills of Riemann hatchlings, a sound that had been absent from the galaxy for far too long. General Steele, who had been overseeing security at the facility, recognized the broader implications of their work. Aaron found him one day, deep in conversation with a group of Raman military personnel. "We're initiating a joint defense program," Steele explained when Aaron approached. "Combining Earth's strategic doctrines with Raman technology, it's going to change the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy." The general's words proved prophetic. Within months, human and Riemann engineers were collaborating on new hybrid defense systems. Aaron watched in amazement as prototypes of sleek biomechanical weapons took shape in the facility's workshops. Meanwhile, Dr. Holloway's research into rapid adaptation genetics, enhanced by insights gained from Alex's unique biology, led to breakthroughs in human medicine. Aaron found himself poring over reports of new treatments for genetic disorders and improved methods for organ regeneration. "We're on the cusp of a medical revolution," Dr. Holloway explained, his eyes alight with excitement. "The applications of this research go far beyond what we initially imagined." As the project reached its zenith, Aaron stood in his office, surrounded by holographic displays of ongoing research projects. The secure facility, once a place of frantic experimentation, had been transformed into an interspecies research center. Scientists from Earth and Riemann worked side by side, their collaborative efforts promising new advancements in fields ranging from xenobiology to space exploration. A chime from his communication panel interrupted his thoughts. Aaron activated the holographic display, revealing the face of an alien he had never seen before. The being's features were avian, with iridescent feathers and keen, intelligent eyes. "Greetings, Dr. James," the alien said, its voice translated by the computer into melodious English. "I am Ambassador Kriax of the Awesomeness Collective. We have been following your work with great interest." Aaron straightened, sensing the weight of the moment. "It's an honor to meet you, Ambassador. How can we assist the Awesomeness Collective?" The ambassador's feathers ruffled slightly, a gesture Aaron interpreted as nervousness. "Our species faces a crisis not unlike what the Riemanns experienced. We wondered if your interspecies cooperation might extend beyond your current alliance." As Aaron listened to the ambassador's request, he felt a familiar surge of excitement. The methods and connections forged during Vortis's stay had indeed changed the course of human and alien relations. Now, it seemed, they were about to embark on a new chapter of interstellar diplomacy and scientific cooperation. "Ambassador," Aaron said, a smile spreading across his face, "I believe we have a great deal to discuss. Let me introduce you to our team."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.